So welcome back to the Inner Response podcast. This is the first video that I have done with the podcast. We're now in season 3 and this will be episode 4, and I'm your host, Marissa Rose. I'm an advanced care paramedic, budding neuroscientist, researcher, and I'm an advocate for the human behind the uniform. Today I'm joined by my good friend Daniel Sundahl, registered advanced care paramedic and ex-firefighter, renowned international speaker, artist, and trauma-informed counselling therapist. So welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Marissa. I'm honored that it's the first video in a response podcast. First video. That's a big deal. Big deal.
Definitely not used to it. I'm used to just speaking into a blank room. But in this episode, so a little while ago, Dan and I did a survey, and we surveyed over 170 people. So we had 170 respondents. And what we looked into was something that might seem a little bit skin deep, but cuts a lot deeper, is there tattoo bias in emergency services? So we had respondents from all across the world, which we'll break down like where they were from and ages and sexes and all that sort of stuff. And we wanted to understand how tattoos were perceived in our profession by our colleagues, leadership, and the public. Are tattoos still seen as unprofessional? Do they impact promotion, public trust? And what do they really represent to those who wear them? So Dan and I today are going to unpack all of the results, and we got some really powerful responses as well, really interesting responses. So I've looked through all of these responses. Dan hasn't had a chance to look, so all of his sort of reactions will be first time seeing and hearing legit what you all had to say. And I wanted to understand, I guess, so obviously Dan and I both have tattoos this arm. So I've got all of this and my hand, and these are all obviously very visible on the ambulance. And I did have some people ask if the reason that I did this podcast was because I had any negative interactions with people, because this, like the top half of my hand is quite new. And the answer is no, like I didn't get any negative, I guess, response from getting them. I was just, after I got it, Dan and I had a very interesting conversation, and I was like, I wonder if this is a thing. So that's what we're going to look into today. So Dan, I'll get up the results here. Now this is all very technical. Dan and I were identified that I'm not very technologically advanced here. So the first question we asked was, what is your profession? So essentially we had, not surprisingly, given the following that I have, 57.14% were paramedics or EMTs. We had only 9.5% were firefighters, 4.17% were police, the same percentage, 4.17% were dispatchers, and even smaller amounts, so 1.19% were military. We had 0.6% for correctional officers. We actually had 10.12% for nurses.
Wow, that's surprising.
We had no doctors. And we did have other. So in other, some people did write EMT, even though that was an option. So we had a peace officer, which I thought was interesting. We had retired paramedics, social worker, booking manager, corporate public, search and rescue, respiratory therapist, which is interesting, logistics, police chaplain, insurance agent, member of the public, educator, but previously a first responder dispatcher, a pilot, and a pharmacist.
Oh, that's a good...
Yeah, so we did get a little bit of variety in there, which is interesting. So where are you located? So I had another document here that I'll just pull up.
That's an interesting demographic of your followers on the podcast too.
I thought so. Right? I thought the peace officer was interesting as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's good data.
So we had 40.96% from the USA. We had 23.49% from Canada. We had 17% from places that were unknown or couldn't be quantified. So people put places that I didn't recognize or didn't, I guess, fit into the criteria that I was looking at. But only 13% from Australia and 4% from the UK.
Really? That's very interesting.
So Very large percentage from America, which was interesting. Most of the respondents were female, so 61.22% were female and 38.78% were male, which was interesting as well. I thought I would get more men for some. I guess I'm biased in the sense that I assume more men would have tattoos than women.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the respondents had more tattoos. I guess it just means that they engaged in this research a little bit more.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The age groups were interesting. So we had under 25. I thought there would be more under 25. Do you think this would be what do you think the percentage would be for this one, Dan?
Well, I didn't get my tattoos till I was in my 50s. I had zero tattoos. So I think the norm may be to think, well, the younger people get tattoos. But I don't know. I think I know a lot of people that are getting tattoos later in their life when they're getting tattoos that are very meaningful. So I am going to guess that the largest age for tattoo. Now, is this who have tattoos or is it who responded?
Who responded.
Okay. So then that's kind of more probably your demographic. I would say.
So who engaged with this research? Who
engaged
found
with
this
the research? Who found it interesting enough to? I would say 30 to 45, 30 to 50.
Oh, yeah. So the highest percentage was 35 to 44, so 31.9%.
Yeah.
Only 5.52% of under 25s, 25 to 34-year-olds, 20%. 45 to 54, we had another high percentage at 23.9%. 55 to 64, 15%, and then it tapered off. But we did get someone who was over 75.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got 1.23% of an over 75ers. So that was interesting.
But now I would have patients that are over 70 or over 80 and they have tattoos. It's always an interesting story, especially if it looks really old, like an old tattoo. Like, man, tell me about this tattoo.
Often it's Navy. I find a lot of my patients, if they're elderly and have a tattoo, I always say, were you in the Navy? And most of the time they say yes.
And then and my buddy did it, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't, like, it's
not
not very.
The buddy ones, I think.
But they didn't have tattoo parlors in every corner, 60 years ago. But I found that, anyways, that's off topic, but I found it very interesting.
So years of service, 0 to 4 years was 8%, 5 to 9 years, 14%. The highest percentage of respondents that actually had over 30 years service.
Wow.
So that had a 21.85%, and 10 to 14 years was the next highest at 20.17%.
Wow, that's interesting too.
I thought so. So now we're going to get into the more interesting things. So that was just like the demographic of all of the people, which obviously sets the tone. So when we asked, there was a question, do you have tattoos? And this was to our respondents. And it was either yes, visible in uniform, yes, covered by uniform, or no. So yes, visible in uniform was 54.17%. So 54% of the people who responded to this actually had visible tattoos that are visible beyond their uniform, which I found interesting.
But it could be short shirts, right? So it's either hand, arm, or face, I guess.
Yeah.
Not there's a lot of face tattoos out there.
They're wearing shorts, it could be on there.
Oh, that's right. You guys get to wear shorts over there. We don't get to wear shorts over here. I never thought of that, but yeah.
But
mind you, the largest percentage of the demographic is the United States. And most of the paramedics here, first responders in general, shorts are not part of the uniform. I'm not speaking for everybody, but the overall average, most don't wear shorts over here.
Therefore on the arms.
Yeah. So could be the face, could be the nape of the neck, could be the ear, but probably not. I'm guessing it's probably arm stuff with short sleeve shirts.
0.21% said yes, covered by uniform, and 22% said no. So that was so the majority of people who completed this, that makes it 77% of the respondents did have tattoos. The next question was, I believe emergency responders with visible tattoos are just as professional as those without. What's interesting here is 78%, like 78.31% strongly agreed, 18.67% agreed, 0.6% were neutral. So I like that. Not most people had quite a strong opinion about this question. 1.81% disagreed and 0.6% strongly disagreed. So, the majority of participants either strongly agreed or agreed that we are just as professional with tattoos.
Yeah. That's not surprising considering 78% of them have tattoos.
I would agree.
Right? Yeah. So that shouldn't be too surprising, but that's, I'm surprised it's that high.
The next question,
because even though that I have tattoos, I sometimes feel it's not professional. Sometimes.
Sometimes I
don't think it matters.
Once I got my hand tattoo, I thought if I want to go for a leadership role, and this is where all this was born from, I was like, if I want to go for a leadership role, this may heavily impact my ability to do that. Like if you're going to be
Yeah.
the commissioner of the ambulance service, are they going to be interested in giving you a job because you've got a hand tattoo? I don't know. But I feel like it may. And now that I have it, I do feel like that might be something in consideration when I go for different roles potentially. But that's a
Yeah.
personal bias that I have.
Right. When I opened up my counseling practice and I put it out there that I was accepting clients, and it was the picture of me in a t-shirt with my arms crossed, I got a comment from somebody saying, who would be dumb enough to hire a counselor that didn't have the smarts to not tattoo their arms. Basically, I'm like, why would you want to have a counselor that was dumb enough to have tattoos? What's the comment? And I thought, oh, that's, that really shocked and surprised me. It was just one. I have lots of clients. It's not an issue getting, and my thoughts were, well, the majority of my clients that work with first responders, the majority of them have tattoos anyways. But I found that interesting. And when I travel, there are certain sections of North America that I noticed there's less tattoos in the people that I see versus more tattoos in others. So I think it might even be, I don't know if that came up in the research of the demographics, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yes. And the next question was, visible tattoos on emergency responders reduce public trust. I found this interesting. 0.6% strongly agreed with that statement.
0.6?
0.6. So no one strongly agreed that even though we had 20% of people who did not have tattoos, only 0.6% thought, yes, I truly believe that visible tattoos on emergency responders reduces public trust, which is, I thought that percentage would be bigger, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
7.7% agreed. So some people did think that. And we had about 20% of the respondents say that I don't really have an opinion, like just neutral. 42% disagreed. And then 29% strongly disagreed. So that's good to know. But again, I think this entire survey is a little bit geared towards the bias because all of these, the majority of the people do have tattoos. So it would be interesting, I think, to potentially do this survey again and only survey people without tattoos to see what their opinion is and if it's different, because
that would be interesting. Yeah, maybe that's another, once you share all the data, once everyone sees this and you share it on your pages and publish it, then yeah, it would be really interesting to see the difference.
I think so.
It might be really even interesting to see how many people engage in the survey if the numbers is high.
Yeah. I would feel comfortable receiving help from an emergency responder with visible tattoos. 87.5% of people strongly agreed they would be fine with receiving help from an emergency responder with tattoos. 8.9% agreed. 2% were neutral, and only 0.6% said disagree or strongly disagree. So what that tells me is that generally a very large percentage of people don't really have much care towards whether the person rendering the care has tattoos or does not.
Yeah. Again, that would be a very interesting question if you surveyed only people without tattoos.
Yeah, but even so, like there's still, over 20% that don't have tattoos and only a 0.6% in both of those areas. So that's still it would be different if that percentage was reflected that, but it doesn't.
It's good to know.
This is interesting.
I wonder if that's...
So this is...
You go ahead.
No, you go. I was going on to the next question.
Yeah, I was going to say what was I going to say? It's interesting, the perception of tattoos. I wonder if it's because it's more normalized and it's almost more difficult or more unusual to have a first responder that doesn't have a tattoo than a first responder that does. Almost, the pendulum's almost swung that much. So I wonder if the idea of it not being professional, I wonder if a demographic of age is specific on the people who answered that. But again, most of them said it was still professional. But an age component to that. I wonder if the older population would think it's not versus the younger population.
Definitely. I would put money on that because the amount of elderly patients, not men tend to not say this to me, but certainly women go, why would you ruin your body like that? Why would you ruin your beautiful skin? And then I say, oh, it's artwork. It's beautiful. It means a lot to
Yeah.
me. And then when I was doing this survey and gathering all this information, I actually literally a few days after I looked at the information, had a patient say to me, why would you do that? Why would you ruin your skin? And I said to her, I find it like, why does that impact you? Like, why do you think that I've ruined my body because I have this artwork on it? And then she thought for a second and she couldn't answer the question. And then interestingly, what she did was she asked for my arm and asked to look at it. And
She wanted more information.
she held my arm and she stroked it and she looked at the front and she said, actually, that's quite beautiful. And I was like, it is, isn't it? It's art. And then I was like, did I just change her like here? Like, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, probably.
This was interesting. So this is where I think the survey started getting juicy. Was we said there should be policies restricting visible tattoos for emergency responders. So the options were no, yes, or yes. What are some examples of policies you believe should be in place? So we had 58.68% say no, but we actually had like a bit over 40% say yes. And then we had some responses. And
Wow,
these are
that's interesting.
It is interesting. Even though everyone
based on
said
the data so far.
Yeah, everyone says it's fine. But then when you give them an option saying it should be restricted, what should the restrictions be? People are like, actually, yes, it should be restricted. And
but it's fine.
This is yeah. So this is what some people said. Can't be offensive or biased. If tattoos are offensive, they should not be allowed, only against those that may be offensive. Inappropriate visual ones. Organised crime tattoos or profanity tattoos to not be visible. Political or offensive tattoos. So you'll see offence keeps coming up. I would like to understand what people find offensive, and that's
subjective.
That is very objective. Tattoos that support groups that discriminate against other individuals' ethnicity, religious beliefs, or that represent hatred towards others. I mean, that would have to be very detailed.
So no swastikas on your forehead.
That comes up a lot. So no visible profanity, racist, sexist, antisocial, anti-religious garbage.
Wow. So no tattoos of garbage cans? Is that
no garbage? What's that character in? What did you don't? There was a character that lived in a bin. I forget his name.
Yeah, Sesame Street. Oscar.
Was it Oscar?
Is that his name? The green guy. He's really grumpy.
I think it must be Oscar. Guy? I think aggro is an Australian thing. Don't mind me.
Is he blue? Blue green?
Green, I think. No neck, face tattoos, inappropriate language, nudity, nudity. A little booby. Can't take on no booby. Or are they talking
but
about
there's
lower?
There's some pinup. There's some really amazing pinup tattoos that I've seen that look great.
Yeah, but are they talking like boobies?
They slip in a little bit. There's some little nipple action in there, but it's I think it's part of the artwork. Like this goes deep, right? Then you're getting into censoring art, like what's art, what's not art, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Are you doing harm? Are you not doing harm? Yeah, this goes into like a deep, even the philosophical debate of what artwork is and what isn't. That's opening up a whole can of worms there, I think.
So then this gets even more interesting because we get a couple of double ups, like we get some things that keep popping up here. No vulgar images or writing, obscene or offensive, nothing vulgar, offensive, skulls.
Skulls?
Right? Skulls.
I got a skull.
Skulls come up a lot.
On my hand.
Language and pornographic imagery, Nazi symbols, no facial tattoos, no neck or face, no face tattoos. Neck and face tattoos are a little too much.
I can see the skull
hateful
thing
things,
actually.
The word fuck.
Yeah.
The word.
Who has the word fuck tattooed on them in a visible spot? Like
I'm sure people
on their knuckles, maybe. Like, why would you? I don't. Maybe. Snort. Is that what you said?
Little one. That's all right. No head, face, neck, hands, fingers. You're out.
Oh, I'm out. I've got skulls. I got like a devil on my finger.
Nah, you're done.
I must be a murderer. I'm very offensive. I am. I'm an offensive human. I also have an angel over here.
I worked with an EMT who had.
Okay.
What do you have?
I was just going to say I have the devil, but I also have an angel, so it's all about balance.
It cancels itself out.
It can.
Okay, so you can come back into the classroom.
Okay, just don't look at my left hand, just look at my right hand.
Yeah, I worked with an EMT who had a trashy biohazard symbol on their neck, very visible. He was told to cover it and had to wear turtlenecks every shift. How is biohazard offensive? That's interesting. I wouldn't wear it. I wouldn't do that. Someone told me to do that.
Then that would make sense if there is a policy for it.
Well, that's the next
right. So
answer says that.
Yeah.
Up
So if
until
the
a year ago,
guy who has the neck tattoo, did he get hired and then he got the tattoo and there was no policy? I would say he actually has an argument that he wouldn't have to do that. But if you got hired, the policy is there and you got it done, well, then I think follow the policy or lose your job.
yeah, I would agree with
My
that.
opinion.
You know
right?
that it's in the
But
policy. Yeah, don't push the
we
boundaries.
didn't, in my fire department, we didn't have a policy, but a lot of people had tattoos, but nobody had as many tattoos, visible tattoos as I did. So when I showed up to work, I went from like totally virgin skin to this. I know that, some of the officers and even some of the guys in my platoon are like, oh, fuck, damn, what did you do? But I don't think they could have. I think there was some leadership that wanted to say something, but they knew that they couldn't because there's really no other people had it. So how can you say, well, damn, we don't like your tattoos, but the other tattoos are okay, but we don't like yours. So you have to cover yours up, but the other person doesn't have to cover. Gets really tricky, I think, and tough for leadership positions, organizations that don't have policies in place already.
So this person says, up until about a year ago, we had no visible tattoo policy. Since it was lifted, morale has boosted and employees feel more valued and able to express themselves. I like that. That's cool.
Well, okay. What if expressing yourself is to put a swastika on your forehead?
I mean, I don't.
What do you see? I think there's an argument there that that's a hate symbol, right? So but the Balinese religious symbol is the swastika, but it's reversed. Right? So when you first look at it, you think it's a swastika, but you go to Bali and all the carvings and the things are the reverse, which existed long before. But it's an interesting, maybe I'm just making up stuff that what ifs that haven't happened or maybe have happened, but interesting. Very interesting, I think.
See logos, nudity, profanity, face, neck. This is interesting. I have a tattoo of female breasts on my arm that I keep covered at all times while in uniform. I think maintaining appropriate tattoos, i.e. no obvious nudity, no vulgar symbols or tattoos, is the only exclusion that should be made. That's interesting that that person has nudity on them and takes that proactive approach to cover it to not offend people. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's doing it on his own.
Hate symbols, bad language, genetically offensive, swastika again. That came up a lot. So essentially, offense, things that really people think that they should be limiting things around is profanity, swastika, hateful speech, and boobs or nudity. Define nudity.
Right. And what's offensive? Like, personally, I have nothing against boobs, just saying. Not offended by boobs at all.
I have them.
But maybe people think a devil tattoo on your finger that's very visible is very offensive. So what is considered offensive? And I kind of get the skull part. Right? Well, that's offensive to me. Yeah, the butterflies.
Is that like a gang symbol?
Yeah, right.
Could be somewhere in the
butterflies.
world.
I don't really. I love butterflies; they're beautiful, but it's just a matter of it's subjective to the individual as for what is offensive and what isn't. I understand this. I understand the skull thing. If you're a paramedic and you're dealing with people that are maybe I don't know. I have skulls, but I wonder if, from the perspective of somebody who critically ill, they're dying. Right. And the family member sees a paramedic come in with a skull or the grim. I have an art piece called Grim Death, and it's this Grim Reaper as a paramedic. People have had that tattooed on their bodies. And I'm thinking, hey, great. I'm honored that people do that. But if you go into a house where someone's dying, they've arrested, and they see the paramedic have a Grim Reaper tattoo on them that's visible, then I can see how that could be upsetting to the family, 100%.
I could see that. But how many people have skulls though? Like most people who have a sleeve have a skull, I would say.
Skulls are cool.
Yeah, skulls are dope. Meaning a skull.
Well, this is a sugar skull, so that has meaning with Mexico and the Day of the Dead and all that stuff. But I've seen some really amazing skull tattoos.
Mine that I'm getting is going to represent the relationship between life and death, the skull. So, but mine's kind of going to be in here. I guess it's less visible, but I don't know. I was surprised that skulls came up so much. This next question was interesting. Have you ever judged or formed an opinion about an emergency responder or coworker based on their tattoos?
That's interesting.
So 25% said yes. So that percentage includes people who have tattoos, and 74% said no.
Judged people with tattoos. I admit it.
Is it because the tattoo wasn't good, or because it was present? Because there's a difference there. Like, it's like, I'm judging you because that looks like you got that in jail versus the fact that you just have it. So what was your judgment based on? The artwork?
It was
the quality,
like,
or the fact it was
no, it was like face tattoos. So it was face and neck. And of course, I understand. I've got tattoos. I understand that is, what is that saying? The pot calling the kettle black. I understand that. And I have visible tattoos, but nonetheless, sometimes I'll see it, I'm like, yeah, why would you do that? But at the same time, I see other tattoos.
I'm curious.
One was like on like a visible neck, and then it was right here underneath, like right on the cheekbone.
Huh. Was it all the neck, or like just a bit of script?
It was half the neck. And I don't even know what it was. Like, I couldn't even recognize what it was. And,
like a big piece.
Yeah, it was a big piece. And I think it may have been something from the back. But I recognized that I shouldn't have judged. So I'm admitting.
What was your judgment? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I thought, in retrospect right now, I'm making myself look like a total boob. But I thought, well, maybe, why would you do that? How are you going to, like, what are other people going to think, or what, how are you going to get a job? And like, why would I assume this person didn't have a job? Maybe this person was a super successful artist and that was part of his.
Oh, so this was just someone in the community, not an emergency responder?
No, it wasn't. This is just someone in the community. Yeah. It
wasn't,
okay. It wasn't an emergency responder. Yeah. There's nobody. Yeah, I haven't judged anyone in emergencies, and no emergency responders. This is just someone that's in the community. And when I stopped and I recognized, hey, what are you doing? Like, you don't know anything about this person. You don't know the story. You don't know why they got it done. You don't know what meaning it has to them. So I really checked in myself, and I'm like, yeah, like,
I've
that's
seen a
really
dude
weird that I'm
FTP on his forehead.
Oh, okay. He was against. He didn't like law enforcement. Was that what I'm gathering? He was anti-law enforcement.
Or maybe he just didn't like pancakes.
Yeah, right. Say. Or other things that start with the letter P.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Those.
So definitely, there's a story
open
there.
To interpretation. It's definitely
right?
A story.
It's artwork, open to interpretation, I guess.
Yeah. I have witnessed or experienced bias, judgment, or discrimination within my workplace towards emergency responders with visible tattoos. This was interesting, right? So 49.7% said yes, and 50.3% said no. That's a 50-50 split.
50-50. So that is surprising.
Have witnessed or experienced bias because of their tattoos. But if you think back to the questions that we asked earlier, do you have a problem? They said no.
Oh, yeah.
So then
I wonder what the bias was that they witnessed.
I do wonder. I wonder what the bias was, and I wonder, like, what demographic, like, how.
Because, the bias could be perceived.
It could be
perceiving. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole here a little bit, but if it's first responder community, let's say the first responder is having symptoms of trauma. I'm not saying every first responder is going to get PTSD or have symptoms of trauma. I don't believe that's true, but lots of people do. One of the symptoms of trauma are easy to anger, so a shortened fuse, altered perspective. And when we talk about sanctuary trauma, some of it is because of your altered perception of bias against you. So it's which, don't get me wrong, if your perception is bias against you, that's real. I'm not saying it's not false. I'm not saying it's not real. If you perceive that to be true, then it's true. If you believe that you are seeing a ghost, well, then you're seeing a ghost, right? That's your perception. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the perception is wrong, but I wonder if that could be included in with some of that, because of that. It's not really, there's a bit of it's not really concurrent. I don't know if that's the word, but 50-50s. Inclusive, it doesn't really match up with the other results. So I wonder if that's their perception. That's why it'd be really interesting to see what actual examples of what the bias was, or not.
And
the bias,
I do agree with you, because with PTSD or consistent trauma exposure, we do have a different colored lens and world that we walk through. Yeah. And so I do potentially think that perhaps what we may interpret as bias, or someone looking at us, might not even be what we're perceiving. It might be incorrect, right?
Yeah, like they looked at me and they smirked. They looked at me and they smirked, and cognitive distortions, big with first responders or anybody with trauma,
I'm
they
the
perceive
queen
it
of
as,
cognitive distortion.
yeah, I wasn't, Marissa was going to say anything, but we both know that sometimes we have to check in with, all right,
Yeah.
really, is this really going to, like, yeah, so that's, but anyway, that's very interesting. So that's the fact that it's 50-50 really
I
kind of
found that
tells me like
interesting.
I find it really interesting,
Mm.
almost to like that goes down a totally other pathway that could align actually with other findings in symptomatic trauma. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I want, it'd be really interesting to see what that result would be with non-first responders. Like, let's say all the numbers are the same, the demographic is with general population versus, I wonder if it would be as high. That would be a way to kind of distinguish, right?
That would be interesting. Yeah. Have to do this survey again on people who don't have tattoos and aren't emergency responders. God, I wonder how many. I
Right.
probably wouldn't get
And
many
then to
people
see what that,
participating.
I would predict that if you were to do that, that number would be quite a bit different. That they didn't see it.
In
Yeah,
my
of course, we don't have
workplace,
tattoos yet.
tattoos are considered unprofessional. So only 7% said yes, 75% said no, and 17% said they didn't know. They were unsure.
Never thought about it. Maybe it's a non-issue.
Maybe they were just like, I don't know. I feel I have to hide or downplay my tattoos to be taken seriously at work.
That's a good question.
Yeah. So strongly agree was 2.48%. So some people did strongly agree with that. That's still a few people. 8% agreed. So that's 10% that did agree with that statement, that's a significant amount. 20% were neutral, like they didn't, neither here nor there. 0.51 said they disagreed, and 30% said they strongly disagreed. So, that's about 70% didn't think so, but still, like almost 10% did think so. So that's interesting. Yeah. And I wonder again if that's a perception thing, if they felt like they needed to, but they didn't really have to, if that was like a personal bias that they held.
That number is higher than I thought it would be. 10% higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it is high, especially in 170 respondents. Like that's a significant number. I believe tattoos affect career advancement or promotion opportunities in my field. So 3.61% strongly agreed, 19.28% agreed. So that's over 20% did agree with that having tattoos would affect career advancement in emergency response.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the tattoo.
Well, I'm in there. Like I think that would impact.
Right. But if you have a tattoo like yours or mine versus, let's say I didn't have any visible tattoos, but I had a rainbow tattoo with a unicorn jumping over it on the small of my back that nobody saw, then that, well, I guess it depends on who saw it or didn't see it. I don't know where I'm going with that.
This promotion is my question.
Maybe it helps get you the promotion. My point is, Marissa, I think it depends on the tattoo. That I think it would be like visible tattoos, and if the tattoo is perceived as being offensive or by those that are making the decisions to promote. So I think a blanket statement.
In most cases, it would be because they're older.
But I think a blanket statement of if you have tattoos, because like, what if you have a small tattoo on the small of your back or something versus like teardrops coming down your eye, representing the amount of people you murdered in prison, right? So that's a little bit different there. Yeah. But I found that interesting. Again, we had 19% who didn't really have an opinion, neither here nor there. 41.57% disagreed and 16.27% strongly disagreed. I thought there'd be more strongly disagrees, to be fair. I would think so. I would think. Again, that could be perception component again, right? Because that's what you perceive to be. Like, do you think that you'd be denied a promotion because of your tattoos?
Yes. Again, it's perception. Yes.
Yeah. Which again is real.
Oh, yeah.
We're not minimizing perception, which some people do.
Yeah.
It's legitimate.
What comments about your tattoos from colleagues or leadership have you received? So it was very positive, neutral, negative, or very negative. And so we had 11.25% say very positive. We had 38.13% say positive, 47.5% say neutral, so no real negativity or positivity. Only 2.5% were negative. I'd be interested to see what that was.
Yeah.
And then 0.63% were very negative. So really, like, we had a little over 3% that was negative. But the majority of the time...
did your friends and family think when you got your tattoo? Like your big arm tattoo?
So I'm the only one in my family with tattoos.
Okay.
I'm the black sheep.
What did your dad and brother think?
I think Dad's just accepted that I'm a bit of a wild child and that I'll do what I do. I think Dad thought they were cool, but he didn't really. He was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Like it's detailed. My brother thought they were super cool. His wife liked it, but she wasn't like, she was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And my auntie loved it because she's got tattoos herself and she's a bit of a hippie. Yeah. How did
My
your
mom's
family
80.
receive yours?
Well, my mom's 83. And I had 0 tattoos. And this is all one piece on both my arms. It's all one concept. And she saw it. She grabbed my arms like they belonged to her. Like it was her skin that I defiled. She licked her thumb and tried to rub it off. And she goes, yeah. Oh, that's nice. So she knew that she couldn't say what she was thinking. Her actions were saying how she felt, but she knew not to actually verbalize it to me because she knew that I would, well, it's too late. It's done. And I loved her for it. I thought it was a hilarious response where she's trying, this 84-year-old woman's trying to be accepting of what her kids do, but at the same time checking to see if it's real. It was like I defiled her skin. It's like she made me, so it's like, oh my God, what did you do to my, it was funny. And now
what does she think now?
She never says anything about it.
I wonder if she'll say anything about mine when I see her in October.
Yeah. She'll watch this podcast. Just to be clear, she'll watch it because of you and not because of me.
Yeah, well, her and I
now she's going to hear me. Now she's going to hear me say that. And now I'm probably going to get shit for that too. But, well, we'll have to ask her and see.
All right. Have you had positive or negative experience from the public or colleagues related to tattoos that you'd be willing to share? So I did ask that question. We got 100 responses.
Wow.
Yeah. So out of 170, that's 100 people sitting down and typing in what experiences they had. That's actually pretty
high. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had mixed reception from the public. Most say they like my tattoos. Occasionally, some say they don't like tattoos in general, but I've never targeted dislike of my own tattoos. Mostly elderly patients. I was asked if I had a terrorist symbol by an elderly patient, but she also liked my other tattoos. I'm complimented on my ink by the public and usually asked where I got it done and by who. Sometimes it's opened communication to have a conversation and build rapport. I would agree with that, especially if I have patients with tattoos, especially mental health patients. If they're inked, I always compliment. I'm like, oh, that's a really nice tattoo. I never ask what it means because I think that asking someone what a tattoo means is a really personal question and shouldn't be something that you necessarily ask a stranger. So I don't do that, but I always compliment them, go, oh, I really like the detail there or the color there or like what great line work. And then they go, oh, and then you're in. Especially if you've got tattoos and they've got tattoos, then you're already like on this little bonded level.
I have a friend who's now married and he would tell me this, goes, Dan, this is my pickup line. I'm like, what are you talking about? So we'd be in the bar, we'd be in the pub having a beer and the waitress would come up and he'd be like, hey, can I ask you a question? She's like, sure. She says, can I ask if you have any tattoos? And they're like, yeah, sure. I have a tattoo. And you're like, can I ask you to see them or is it in a spot that I can't see them? She goes, oh no, sure. And every single time he did it, it turned into a thing. Every single time he did it, he would get into this long conversation with these waitresses of them talking about their tattoos. He was a pretty good looking guy. So I don't know, but that was his pickup line, was to ask women about their tattoos. So what would, let's say someone met you, let's say it's a patient, let's say it's a bullshit call. Someone just needs to be transported. You're wearing long sleeves and they see something on your finger like, hey, or let's say they can't see your tattoo and they ask you, so you pick up my buddy and he's, hey, can I ask you a question? You're like, sure. Because do you have any tattoos? What would you say? Would you admit to having tattoos to a patient?
I don't like talking to patients about me.
So what would you say?
My body. I just go, yeah, I do.
Okay,
I'd shut it down. But if it was in a social, I'm a bit shut down at work because I don't want to, I don't know, it depends on the patient. I think it depends on and if it's a dude being easy with me, like,
That's not a good example. Let's say in public. So let's say you go for dinner with your friends. Your friends brought their brother. So there's kind of like the connection there. You kind of, first time you're meeting the brother.
Okay.
He's kind of cute, He's your friend's sister, brother. And he uses that line as like, hey, do you have any tattoos? What would you say?
Yeah, I do.
Would you be open to, and then he goes, are they visible? Like, is it something that I could see? Or is it something that is too personal for you? Okay. Then you would show them.
No, I would show them. Yeah. Okay. But I wouldn't show them all of them.
Yeah. then the next
Yeah.
line that this guy used was, well, that's really, no matter what it looked like, oh, that's really beautiful. Tell me the story behind it. So he kind of would walk into it a little bit. He wouldn't like going, oh my God, tell me about your tattoos, like right off the top. But he had worked every single time it worked. So to this question,
Well, if anyone can get anything out of this podcast, it's a pickup line.
right there you go. If you remember
You're
anything,
welcome.
yeah, but you got to use the 3-stage approach.
Oh, the
You
3-stage approach.
can't go straight
So
in.
what was the third? So he said, do you have, can I
So first is,
see, and what do they mean?
And what do they mean? Can I ask you about it? But he's always asking the questions of, do you have any tattoos? Can I see it? Can I ask you what the story behind this tattoo? So he always gave the opportunity for them to say no.
That'd work on
And
me.
if they
If he feels cute,
yes
it'd
all the
work.
time. Right?
Yeah, it'd work. There you go.
People ask me about my tattoos and I just start telling the whole story about it. Like, oh, nice tattoos. Oh, let me tell you about it. And I just probably annoy people that ask me about my tattoos because I just totally get into it.
I wonder if that is a shared thing that people think. I get a bit, I don't like telling everyone about what my tattoos mean because I find it quite personal. But maybe that's a me thing. Maybe
because I share it.
No, I think I'm a bitch.
I think most people, it's a personal thing. You're not a bitch at all. You're very nice. I wouldn't be on a podcast with someone who's a bitch. I wouldn't do that. I would be friends with someone like that.
True. Well, I like you.
Yeah, I like you too, even though you're a little bit bitchy.
Yeah. And just, see, even though I don't tell you about what my tattoos mean. Have you had a
we digress.
We digress. So these are more responses, right? We digressed a lot, but that's good. I just had no, nah.
A couple of those, okay.
I have had some both positive and negative. Okay, cool. Do you want to expand maybe? Patient that comments about my tattoos are posting. I don't know what that means. My tattoos are family related. People are interested in my story. I tell. Any bias seems to disappear after I share. That's interesting. Some patients will say they think it's silly that you want to put something on your body like that. Never any changes views on me professionally, but I have always been open to conversation with those who disagree with the decision. On the other side, I have had a lot of compliments on it. Some people enjoy looking at it while doing procedures such as IVs, vitals, etc. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I guess it's like a distraction. They can kind of look at the artwork. I've only had positive experiences from the public. When I first started 17 years ago, it was very much looked down on, even to the point that it was common knowledge that if you had tattoos, you were unlikely to be hired anywhere. Now I believe it is widely accepted, except for some of the older administrative staff. As a captain, I know that tattoos have nothing to do with someone's ability to do the job or their professionalism as a first responder. That's cool.
Okay, I totally agree. But would you say that the tattoos that people have are actually quite an in-depth insight to a little bit about probably a lot about their character?
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, why would they get it? Yeah.
So yeah, it's not their skill level, but I think it is you're kind of wearing yourself on your sleeve a little bit, kind of, because people don't get tattoos. Well, I was about to say that some people don't get tattoos unless they mean something, and that's not true actually. Because when I was getting my tattoos, they would get a tattoo out of a gumball you put a quarter in, or loonie in Canada, and whatever came out, that's what they're gonna get. They just were there to get a tattoo, didn't care what it was. So I guess some people, it has more meaning to them than others. Other people, I'm just gonna get a tattoo to get a tattoo. Versus,
but would you argue that maybe that tattoo, even though it was like not necessarily the tattoo design that meant something, it was the actual getting of the tattoo that meant something to the person?
Yeah, totally. I hope my buddy Tim is going to watch this. He's a paramedic in Toronto, been a paramedic there forever, really long time. Tattooed from like toes down to crown of his head. Well, not quite. He's not tattooed on his face, and his neck's starting to creep up. And I talked to him. I met him at a conference in Toronto, and he walked up to me, and he's a big bald guy, kind of scared the crap out of me, stared at me, took his shirt off and turned around. His entire back piece is one of my images. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm just so amazed that he did that. Anyway, so we've become friends, or like we talk a little bit on social media and stuff. And we talk about the tattoos, and he has been a paramedic for a long time. And he told me, God, I hope he's okay with me saying this, but he said that, yeah, he gets tattoos because it makes him feel something, right? He likes he's a little bit numbed out, I think. That's what he told me. And when he gets tattoos, he makes him feel like he can feel a sensation when he gets tattoos. And I'm like, what are you going to do when you run out of skin? What are you going to, because I don't know, what am I going to do when I run out of skin? I'm like, then start getting them removed. If you want to feel something, then you start doing laser removal stuff.
Yeah,
but
that
yeah,
hurts.
on that, on that point, and that's another really interesting topic and I've talked to a few people that have, it's a very interesting story. Like, I think a lot of artwork, what's the story behind getting it? Like, what is it about tattoos in general, or this particular tattoo, that meant so much to you that you decided to put it permanently on your body? Is it the act of the tattoo, or is it the image itself? It's interesting.
And I also think the position of the tattoo, because I know that some of the positions of the tattoos that I've gotten have been specifically so that I can see them and be reminded of what they mean to me. So this butterfly here and this here
And
and
then
this here.
do this with your arm, right? That's just so cool.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
because I know that my first large piece I got on my back and I love it, but I never see it. And so it was important for me for the next tattoos that I got to be visible to me so that I could be reminded of what they mean. And I find that in times of struggle, when I look at my tattoos, they actually give me strength because of what they represent to me. And so I wonder if that's a shared thing among the people that have tattoos, particularly emergency responders.
I think so. When I look at my tattoos, that's the thing. This is all recovery. This is all trauma, and they're linked. That there's the rope with an angel with the neck around this demon. So yeah, and sometimes it reminds me of, okay, I got things in check, but this trauma is always trying to get out. So I have to see it, right? Sometimes I'm feeling shitty. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll kind of remember why I got that done as a reminder that, yeah, rope is coming a little bit loose. Let's dial it in a little bit. But yeah, if you think of your back tattoo, you've never actually seen it. You've only seen reflections of it. You've only seen representations of it, but you've never seen it with your eyes, like fresh, without. It's always been a reflection.
And I never thought about that when I got it. And I remember when I was laying down on the tattoo chair, and Taylor, who's done all of my big work, she's amazing. This was the first time I'd ever been to her, and I'm laying there and getting this big back piece, and I'm like, man, I hope she's good, and she's just not drawing a massive like dick.
You wouldn't even know
Because
until it's
I
done.
wouldn't know, and it'd be too late, and it'd be massive, and by how much work she's doing, super detailed. But thankfully, it was exactly what I'd asked for. But I think
is it a dream catcher? Is that what it is? I can't remember. What is it?
Yeah, dream catcher with a horse head.
With a horse head. Yeah, that's right.
Then I ended up adding script down my spine as well.
Yeah, cool.
Which says beyond fear lies freedom.
But you'll never see it. Yeah.
Very true.
But you'll never see it though.
No, I look at it in the mirror every day.
Well,
every day, but it's back to front. So
yeah,
it's mirror.
You should have done it backwards, like ambulance in the front of the ambulance, so we can see it. You can read it. That actually be pretty funny if someone got.
I think
if someone got ambulance.
Ambulance is the back to front,
right? If
like
someone put
the actual ambulance
on the actual ambulance, someone had tattooed backwards on their shoulders, so that when they look in the mirror, it will actually sit. That would actually be really funny, right? Like that would be pretty.
Well, I'm going to put it to all of our listeners and watchers that can someone do that and then send us a photo?
No,
it's not going to be me. I don't take
responsibility for that. I think that'd be really clever. I think because then the only person that then would actually see it correctly is you in the mirror, or whoever sees the reflection of it. Everyone else who sees it with their naked eyes isn't the actual intention of the. Anyways, digressing again.
Yeah, but we do this. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think what changes, if any, would you like to see in policies or attitudes towards tattoos in emergency services? I feel tattoos should be allowed within reason, nothing that crosses any lines into being unprofessional. I think that people should be able to wear short sleeves during warm months and not long sleeves. We shouldn't be so judgmental. Oh, so that must be a service where they have to cover it up. I feel where I am, it's accepted as normal. Nah. Got a lot of nah. I would like to see policies and attitudes not be so outdated and old guard. Obviously, offensive tattoos should be covered up, but it's the 21st century and people chose tattoos as a form of expression and art, and in some cases, rebellion. Okay.
What do you think?
It's a good question. God, it's so open to interpretation because when you say nothing offensive, what is offensive? Like, I think, probably a massive phallic symbol on a head going into your mouth's not cool. Like, there should be a line drawn somewhere with that.
Unless that's the industry you're in, then maybe, but not for emergency services.
Not for us.
Not for us. For some, maybe.
I think it's a common sense thing for most people. I think most of us know what's acceptable and what's not. I don't think we need
See,
to
a policy should be as detailed as possible so that there's not any room for interpretation. So
because offensive is broad.
Yeah. So you can say
Nudity is
offensive, and
broad.
offensive means this is the definition of offensive specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Nudity, this is the definition of nudity. So people are very clear on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in their policy. So there's no decisions on, okay, interpretation of what does it mean? It's like, well, here's the policy, follow the policy. So I think it's better for the organization and the people working in it that there's less gray area when it comes to that, I would think.
I think
So
so.
I
Because a
should
lot
be
of these
very
comments
detailed,
about,
inclusive.
yeah, a lot of these it promotes discrimination based on appearances. I like this one. You do you, boo. Thank you. I will.
That could be the policy.
I feel tattoos should not be a criteria that determines someone's worth or work ethic. I also feel I would consider tattoos that represent ideologies that may be harmful and worth having a discussion about what that looks like and how it would impact someone's job, co-workers, and patients. Tattoos are more mainstream and accepted now than in the past. Tattoos are no longer seen as a bad biker image and are more of the norm now. No vulgar.
Depending on the tattoo.
Yeah, of nudity. I think attitudes in general have changed regarding tattoos. They are no longer quite as taboo, and I feel like it is even more so in the EMS field. Visible tattoos for law enforcement officers I can see may cause problems, but I know so many now with tattoos, it doesn't faze me. Except facial tattoos. I feel those are distracting and not appropriate in our field. Excessive facial piercing goes along with this too. I mean, we all have a ring cutter for a reason on the ambulance.
I don't think it's for nose rings. I don't think that's what the ring cutter's for.
I have been slightly uncomfortable with the mind of the person who gets tattoos that depicts violence. I would think that a patient could have the same feeling. That said, most of the co-workers that have tattoos seem to have ones that are depicting their terms of service or partners/offspring. Time to change with the times and make it accepted everywhere. No tattoos if there were racist, prejudice, or profanity. Oh, I am the nicest person in our department. Having tattoos and gauged ears doesn't change the provider I am. I would like to see a shift in open-mindedness towards tattoos and piercings. Also, freedom to reasonably insist on respect from any public we encounter that express disrespect towards first responders because of our tattoos or piercings. That's interesting. In my opinion, no tattoos that do not tell a story or have no cultural significance. I think that you can't really.
That's a lot of this up to interpretation.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make any formal policies, as that would put a bigger bullseye on the topic. It's just let's just accept it as normal and move on. Educate the public. Maybe there is a reason why responders get tattoos. Would agree with
Yes,
that.
like my buddy Tim.
Yeah, realize that art does not diminish professionalism. The person with the neck tattoos looks trashy. If you're going to get ink done, just consider how it makes you appear in your profession. If you had trashy tattoos before becoming a first responder, then maybe consider a cover-up tattoo or a way to conceal it. We still have to look professional and not like a trailer park crackhead with tattoos that reflected poor decisions.
Wow. All right. Well, what if it's a neck tattoo of like daisies or like a flower coming up? Is that still
Nah, you trailer park
trashy
crackhead.
trailer park crackhead? Even though you have like a flower coming up? Weren't you considering getting a Napier neck tattoo? Because that's a little visible above your collar. Yeah. Were you going to do that?
Yeah, I still may.
So that's considered a neck tattoo. So if you got a neck tattoo like that of a rose, I think, is that a rose you're going to do? If you got a rose on the nape of your neck, that means that you are going to be trash. You're going to be a trashy trailer crackhead.
That's what I'm edging for, to be honest.
Is that what you're going for? Well, then
I'm going for that. And then I'm hoping that I come across a man in a bar who uses the 3-stage pickup line tattoo approach on me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you just go, sure, lift up your hair and you can show it. And then
I got this.
Right. But he'll probably got the tattoo in the trailer park.
There.
While smoking crack, just saying. Yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Done by.
Yeah. Done by crackhead.
Yes.
And let's be clear that people that are making these comments, fantastic. Like we're making kind of fun of some of the comments, but the people that have taken the time to comment on the survey and to be truthful and honest, like I love it. Like, don't get me wrong. I love all the comments, especially ones like that. It's great. It's really, really
and
good.
it gives us something to talk about as well.
Right. And it's really,
But there are
it's
so
really
many
funny.
different ones. But I think mostly people think that tattoos are fine. We're not going to judge you for them. But, neck tattoos, profanity tattoos, nudity, swastikas, things of these descriptions are potentially unprofessional. And I think most people would agree with that. So,
Yeah. Problematic still, though. Let's say no one's really going to give you a hard time if you got a cross on your shoulder, right? But what if you get an upside down cross on your shoulder? What if your religion is Satanism, right?
well,
Then
yeah.
then to say, okay, well, your religion, devil's advocate, plan words. But what if, that opens up a can of worms of, okay, well, you can express your religion, but I can't express mine. So what is considered offensive? Like your religion
And
is
is
now
that then
offensive to me,
discrimination? Yeah.
right?
So where's the line between that and discrimination as well in the workplace?
Exactly.
And
Right.
those lines are getting very blurred in the
Right.
context of what we
And
exist in
now
these days.
people are getting offended over things that may not have been considered offensive before.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to keep up with what's offensive and what's not. So,
and the last question was, are you considering getting a tattoo within the next year? So we had 20% say yes, 30% say no. And then I said, if yes, visible or not visible. The yeses were actually 70% if you include this question into it. And then what was interesting was the majority were visible. We had visible, very visible, not visible, both, visible, 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 very visible, visible, visible. So all of these people are getting visible tattoos.
that's interesting based on the answers to the other questions.
It is. It is interesting. I feel like I missed a question.
Are you getting a tattoo in the next year?
We know. I can't
The
help
neck
it.
tattoo?
I think I'm addicted to the pain as well. But
That was my
I
next
don't find it
question.
painful. I find it, to me, tattoos feel good.
Are they addictive?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when
They're
I
not.
got my first ever tattoo, which is now covered with this tattoo. It was a tiny little heart here, just a little heart. And I remember going in and the guy said to me, like, you'll be back. I wasn't necessarily back to him, but I remember him saying, you'll be back. And then I was like, it did take me a few years. And then I got another one. 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 And I think I've got about 15 or 16 now. I've lost count. But I'm not done.
You know what I do like?
Are you done?
And if I was to go back, yeah, because it was all one piece, so I can't add to it because then it's going to change as you're going to add to a big piece of art that's already there. You can't really, it's done. The art piece is done. But in retrospect, if I was to do it all over again, I would do, no, I can't. I'm not gonna do anything on my back. Can't see it on my back. Maybe I'll get ambulance
make my
tattooed
mistake.
backwards on my shoulders. I'll do ambulance backwards. I kind of like patchwork tattoos, which a lot of people are getting, where it's like small tattoos. So if this was still my trauma arm, I would do smaller things. But again, this is my own artwork, and my artwork looking small wouldn't work well. But because then you could keep adding, as you have experiences, you can add traumatic experiences, and you can also add good experiences. So you have this patchwork tattoo work on your arms, and then you can add things as you go. But no, I don't plan on, that's a lie. I am planning on getting something. I'm going to get something. I don't have anything here in my.
Is it FTP?
Yeah, I'm going to get FTP.
Yeah.
It's for fuck those potatoes. I hate
I'll see.
potatoes. Hate potatoes.
Yeah. Oh, I love
No,
potatoes.
I'm thinking it's going to be
Give me all
the one with the demon eating the paramedic, chewing his head off. Really graphic. But that's my trauma arm, and put it kind of in my armpit where he belongs. Maybe that would hurt though. I do not like pain.
That should be a question I should have asked is, as an emergency responder, did you enjoy the pain of that tattoo or not?
Well, you can add it in the comments.
I wonder if that's, yeah.
People can see this, and you can maybe add in the comments that, why do you get the tattoos? Is it for there's got to be more, like, it's either for the pain. Is it for the image? Like, does it have to have deep meaning? The image has to have deep meaning. Or is it because of your tattoo is your coping mechanism as a substance abuse and addiction in the form of tattoos?
Yeah, I would say that's a bit my way for sure.
Yeah. But yours would be both. Yours would be for the pain of it and for the addiction.
Yeah, I've got a very addictive personality.
And the third one.
I think that's actually a shared thing with paramedicine. Yeah. Addictive personalities, I wonder.
Yeah. Well, as a therapist, there's a reason for that. I specialize in substance abuse and addiction and trauma. There's lots of reasons for that. tattoos could be the result of that, filling a need that has been made there either from the work as a first responder or stuff that happened to you in your childhood that you're trying to fulfill through tattoos. I could see that happening.
Well, that's pretty much it. I found that very interesting, to be
Yeah,
honest.
very interesting. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
It'd be
So
interesting to see people who see this leave comments underneath, below. I think that would be what they thought of it. If they want to add anything, I'll be keeping an eye on this and see what the comments are.
Yeah, I would be curious about, what people without tattoos think about it, one.
Yeah.
And two, perceived bias of thinking that perhaps people are judging you. And also the reason that you get tattoos, like if a little bit is to do with that addictive portion or you enjoy the pain, and whether that's shared between emergency responders and non-emergency responders, or if it's more prevalent in our population. That would be interesting. Dare say I would put my hat on. I would bank that it would be, but I could be wrong.
I agree. Yeah, you never know. Interesting.
Anyway, thanks for coming on,
Good
Dan.
stuff.
Yeah,
my pleasure. Lots of fun as always. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully everyone got a little bit of information out of it and found those results quite interesting, because I certainly did.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. We'll have another podcast next week. So chat soon, guys.